Pete Crow-Armstrong has gotten the call up to the Chicago Cubs. John Means is ready to join the Baltimore Orioles rotation. Join us today as we talk about players that can help you in your fantasy baseball playoffs run and players that have risen their stock heading into 2024 on today's action-packed episode of Locked On Fantasy Baseball.
You are Locked On Fantasy Baseball, your daily fantasy baseball podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, fantasy baseball fanatics, and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Baseball podcast, brought to you by the Locked On Sports Network, your team every day. As always, we're your number one source of fantasy baseball knowledge, and thank you for making us your first listen each and every day. I'm your host, Dominic Martino. You can find me on Twitter at DomMartinoFB. Here, as always, with my brother, my co-host, my partner in crime, my best friend, Matthew Ane, and you can find him on Twitter at Matthew_Ane. If you're listening on a platform like Apple or Spotify that allows 5-star ratings and reviews, we would truly appreciate it if you could do that for us. And if you're watching on YouTube and you haven't already, hit that little bell below. It subscribes you to the podcast and gives you a notification every time we drop a new episode. And lastly, but most importantly, join us on the Subtext website. Our Diamond Club on there is still going strong in this, final stretch run here for the fantasy baseball playoffs. We offer just a lot more on there than we can do in this 30-minute podcast. And you get direct access to Matt and I for all of your fantasy baseball questions for the championship run here. And this is the time you got to stay locked on, and Matt and I are going to help you win those championships. And guys, real quick, the sponsor to one of today's sponsors is Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Last minute tickets, lowest price always guaranteed. And Locked On Fantasy Baseball fans, we have a fully loaded episode for you today. As always, let us be your team secret weapon as we're talking about players that have made their stock go a little bit higher heading into 2024. And then we have a mix of some guys that you could still add that can help you, make that playoff run and get you that Locked On Fantasy Baseball championship. But Matt, another big call up, brother. So why don't you take the lead and talk about him first?
Yeah, we can't not talk about him, and that's Mr. Pete Crow-Armstrong. I mean, this kid I feel is like a must add just based off of the speculativeness of what happened with Mr. Dominguez, the Martian himself. How he came up into the bigs and kind of just literally just took over. I think Pete Crow-Armstrong has a strong chance to do even like half of what Dominguez did, quite honestly, because they're literally like the same kind of player, right? If you really look at it, like Pete Crow-Armstrong is 5'11", so is Dominguez. Dominguez is I believe 200 pounds. Pete Crow is about 184. Like they're literally the same player, same age. It's actually kind of ridiculous, and the same kind of profile too. Like Pete Crow in the minors this year has 438 at bats, 98 runs, 26 doubles, 7 triples, 20 bombs, 82 rips, 37 stolen bases. Batting average is great this year at 383. So
283?
Sorry, 283. Wow, Matt. What is this? Arise. Here, okay. 283. Can't read today. Call me dyslexic. But anyway, Pete Crow-Armstrong, I feel like, can come up and really make an impact going into this week. Pick him up, see what happens. If he doesn't do anything by, we'll say, Wednesday night, and you walk away and he's done nothing, drop him, move on, get a hot hand. But Pete Crow-Armstrong, if he comes up, does what he has to do, he could be a serious, serious talent. And God, it could be really magical going into the playoffs for this week. Lastly, I want to talk about his next year aspirations, right? Let's talk about upside for next year, since this is also a 2024 conversation. Pete Crow-Armstrong, if he does show up and perform and kind of even does even a little bit of what like Corbin Carroll did last year, kind of, give it a little bit and then shows his stuff really in spring training, Pete Crow-Armstrong could be super valuable. And one of the picks we're going to tell everybody to pick, he's probably going to be in my top 100 overall in terms of where I'm going to pick him up if he performs, because Pete Crow-Armstrong is one of those guys I'm really excited about going into next year. He'd probably be like, a top 10 prospect for fantasy for me. So I love Pete Crow-Armstrong.
Yeah. So I'm going to shorten up a little bit. Pete Crow-Armstrong, also known as PCA. So I'm going to call him PCA here, so you know who I'm talking about. It is Pete Crow-Armstrong, obviously. Matt, good take on him. And I'm going to add on, some little different tidbits here. I want to see where they hit him, right? Because right now, Mike Tauchman, former New York Yankee, has been leading off a lot for the Cubs, and he's a lefty. So, and Pete Crow-Armstrong, PCA, also a lefty. So if PCA gets that leadoff spot, I love the potential outlook here for him. But if they bat him like 7th or 8th, I don't love that as much. Now, Matt read you off the stats. The guy's got a little bit of power. He's good. He hits for batting average. He's got good speed. He's mainly known for that glove, though. I know the glove isn't really helping us out in fantasy, but that's what's going to help him stick around the rest of the year. Obviously, they're not going to send him back down at this point. I think, as Matt said, you pick up PCA. He is, I believe, I did have his ownership here, 12% owned for PCA on Yahoo. Give him that speculative ad. You could, if you need that outfield help, he's definitely one of the guys you can go look at. If you lost an outfielder, if you lost Dominguez, as Matt mentioned, you could definitely go out there and grab him. PCA is number 12 overall prospect in all of baseball. As we mentioned, 21 years old. And like I said, I kind of like him just as much as Matt does. And I would go out there and I'd snag him if you need the outfield help. But let's keep things pushing here. Let's move on to this next guy. Let's talk about Spencer Torkelson, right? Guy's been really up and down. He's on one of those heaters again. The last 14 days, Torkelson, 10 runs, 4 homers, 10 RBIs, batting .271 over the last 14 days. He's still 63% owned on Yahoo. So there's a lot of leagues, not a lot, but, almost half the leagues you can go out there and you can still snag yourself Torkelson. I say ride the heater, ride the power wave. He had 2 home runs on September 7th. And he's been hitting 3rd and 2nd in that Detroit lineup, which isn't great, but you know what? It's in a good position. He's got decent counting stats on the year. And, as we head into that, 2024 kind of conversation, I actually, spoiler alert, I have been working on my rankings. I know Matt calls me crazy. Everyone else calls me crazy. I just want to check, where did I put Torkelson for next year? I put Torkelson at 13 at first base. So maybe a little ambitious, but I think he takes that next level step to where that batting average might come up a little bit on the season because, on the season he's only hitting .234. Maybe we can see that .250, that .260, that 35 home runs. Maybe Detroit goes out there and gets a bat or 2. The runs and the RBIs can be a lot better. And he got chipped in 3 steals on the year. So I like Torkelson. That's really all I got on him. I think you pick him up for now if he's still out there in your league and you kind of just ride that heater.
Yeah, no, I Torque, if you could scoop him up, you got to. You just, again, like that phrase down, ride the heater. I like that. I think that might have to stick. Yeah, for sure. I'm digging that. But I think Torque for next year, I like the 13th rank. I have to actually sit down and do mine. I don't start mine until at least after the playoffs.
I'm just crazy.
Dom doesn't start. So he's the one that's like sitting there, like giving the scratchy itch here, like, oh my god, I got a little something. I need a little. But anyway, let me move on. Great take, Dom. Let's talk about Mr. Royce Lewis fast before we hit this break here. Royce Lewis, you guys probably all know if you've been an avid listener here, if you're an everydayer, how much I love Royce. Yeah, I've been preaching, and you know what? This kid's just been going on a tear. Like it's been bananas. What? 2 weeks ago, he hit you 3 bombs in a single week. Also had 2 grandies in that week as well. Yeah, kid's a stud. And then last week had a great week as well. It's 6 runs, a bomb, 8 ribs, a stolen base, batting .364. On the month, he's hitting .300. On the month, he has 7 bombs. On the month, he has 26 ribs and 4 stolen bases. Now he's starting to use his legs. Here's the thing about Royce Lewis, guys. Like, if he's still available, which, I mean, I don't foresee it in a competitive league.
76% owned, so
yeah,
you got in there. It's a little tough.
It's a little tough. I don't foresee you doing it. Like if you were lucky enough, congratulations. But let's talk about him more for next year. Royce Lewis next year, I have a feeling he's going to be in like my 7th or 8th shortstop. This kid has 30-30 upside. Batting average clearly can translate. The kid is hitting .314 on the year. I think that he's going to hit probably more like 285, 290 to be realistic on it. But that 30-30 is a true possibility. The Twins lineup is looking great, and there's more to come. So I think Royce Lewis is going to be a key cog in that machine, and I think he can be so valuable and the last time probably going to get him as cheap as you are going to get him next year.
Yeah, Matt, great take on Lewis. And before I jump in and give my 2 cents on him, we're going to talk about, we talk about some guys that are potential first-round picks next year. Then we have a few starting pitchers that could help you in the playoff run this year. And then, just a couple other starting pitchers that, the stock is rising on them. But before I get into them and do that, I need to talk to you guys about Sleeper. The MLB playoffs are around the corner, which means the clock is ticking on your chance to 100 times your cash on daily fantasy baseball. Fantasy baseball has never been more exciting than it is now, with studs like Acuna, Betts, and Ohtani. Pick more or less on the stats for these stars like home runs, hits, strikeouts, and you get up to 100 times payout on Sleeper. Get your picks right, and you could win big. Matt and I love Sleeper for not only their easy-to-use format or easy-to-use fantasy platforms, but they also have the fastest and most accurate alerts in the industry. Entries can be made in under a minute, so you can get your last-minute bets in all the time. Use promo code LOCKEDON, and you'll get up to $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms and use for detail. Guys, thank you for bearing through them when they switched up the ad read on me, and I did not do a great job. But dear everyday and new listeners, we have an incredible opportunity for you to support the show and enjoy some fantastic perks along the way. Introducing our Diamond Club on the Subtext website. By becoming a member, you not only contribute to the show's success, but also gain access to exclusive benefits. Get your hands on waiver wire rankings, call-up alerts, injury updates, and instant reactions. Also, you get to enjoy direct access to us for all of your burning fantasy baseball questions. You can try it out completely free for 14 days. Your support means the world to Matt and I, and we can't wait to connect with you on this exciting journey. Join our Diamond Club on the Subtext website today, and let's take your fantasy baseball experience to new heights. Guys, just lastly on the whole, the Subtext thing, now's not the time to give up. I know everyone's getting ready for football. Hey, you still got a lot of weeks left in football. If you're in the playoffs, just join us even for the 14 days, guys, and we'll help you get those, Locked On Fantasy Baseball Championships. We want to see all of you guys succeed, especially our everydayers and our new listeners alike. But let me hop back in here. Let me give my my 2 cents on Royce Lewis. Matt, you did a great job covering him. I don't have too much to add, but you know what? Let's pop back into those my rankings for next year. And I have Royce Lewis at 10. Where did you say you were going to have him at?
Probably 7.
Yeah, so we're right there, right in lockstep. I have Royce Lewis as my 10th shortstop, and at third base, he is also 10. So Royce Lewis has made so much noise this year. He's moving up rankings, and like Matt said, he has potential to move up those fantasy rankings like crazy going into even 2025. Because as Matt said, I see the path to 25, 30 home runs. I see the path to 20-plus steals. And I see a path to a 300-plus batting average. The counting stats is just really about that surrounding team. The runs look a little bit low. The RBIs look actually really good. If Correa can ever get himself together, if they put a few more bats in that Twins lineup, if some of those young guys get it together, like, Jose Miranda type and those boys, Royce Lewis could really excel at 24 years old this year, 25 years old next year. I absolutely love Royce Lewis. And if he's somehow out there in your league, you pick him up right now. There's no hesitation on that. You pick him up, and he will take you to the fantasy promised land. I almost guarantee it with Royce Lewis. Matt, did you want to chime back in before I keep things pushing?
Yeah, don't give them hope on Correa. Just don't do it.
He's been better of late. He's been a little better.
That's great, but
it's too little, too late. I hear it.
Yeah. It's like that JoJo song. It's just a little too late.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
You know what? Just give up on him, but it is what it is. All right, keep moving, bro.
All right, let's move on to this next guy. And now we're going to talk about a couple of players that just have tremendously improved their stock. Not that there was a lot of room for both of them, but they just look so much better going to next year. Let's start with Corey Seager. Corey Seager, man, if he did not get hurt this year, his numbers would have looked absolutely way more tremendous than they do right now. So on the year, Corey Seager, 399 at-bats, 76 runs, 30 homers, 87 RBIs, 2 steals, and a 336 batting average. I've seen some way too early mock drafts where he's going at the end of the first round in a 12-man league, the beginning of the second round in a 12-man league, and honestly, I'm not against it. I'm really not against it, to be honest with you. I don't know if he's a first-round guy for me, but in the second round, I could totally see it happening. Just the numbers are where they should have been last year. The batting average is real. The guy's, a very, very talented hitter. He's a hit it where they're not kind of guy, especially with that shift gone. I think that 300 plus batting average is real. The power is absolutely tremendous. Guy could hit 40 home runs. And in that a full year in that Texas lineup, you're talking about an easy 100 and 100. Only thing he's really not going to give you is that many steals. If he gets you 5 steals, that's actually would be a career high. But even in those points leagues, 43 walks to 76 strikeouts. The plate discipline is tremendous for Corey Seager. So if you, let's say in the first round, you get an Acuna, we'll talk redraft leagues, right? Your first round pick is Acuna. And then Corey Seager comes back to you in the second. That's a perfect pairing. But I love Corey Seager, and I think he's back on track.
Yeah, for sure, Dom. Corey Seager, I don't think I'm drafting him in the first round next year, like you said, but
I'm on board with that.
But I'm kind of okay with, if I have the 12, I'll pick obviously somebody else and then Corey Seager right behind it.
Get you a steals guy first. If you get you a steals guy, then Corey Seager's a great pairing with the steals player.
Right. The thing about Corey Seager is Corey Seager loves to get hurt. He does go down for about a month, but then it's just about it. At least at least at some point during the season, he's going to go down and then he'll be back and then he'll be just a stud. Like always, that's just Corey Seager's MO. That's why I won't ever draft him in the first round. Yes. But this season, I think, has taken him to another level where, hey, I'm willing to deal with the month that he's going to be hurt to get the upside of these stats, because I know you got him in a few leagues. He's nuking it for you. So Corey Seager is an absolute stud. Next year, I can't wait to see where he's going. But let's move on. Let's talk about somebody that, quite honestly, I think is going to be a top 3 pick next year. And that's Kyle Tucker. This is the year we've been waiting for, quite honestly, to get out of hitting lower in the batting order, finally being up at the top, finally getting all the exposure he deserves. And Kyle Tucker, I think, is the new face of the Houston Astros. This kid is just about to do 30-30. He's about 4 bombs away with 3 weeks left. There's no way he's not doing that.
Easy 30-30.
Yeah. And he's 2 away from having 30 stolen bases, which I think he might get 35 by the end of the season. That's including the last week of baseball that nobody plays fantasy baseball.
Or they shouldn't be.
Or they shouldn't
be, rather.
Right.
I know a few guys that do that. Might need to change it up, but
well, that person's really stubborn. But anyway, I think that the batting average is here to stay. He's done 290 in 2022. He had 30 home runs that year. He just only had 14 stolen bases. So Kyle Tucker, is finally putting it all together, all the upside that we knew he had, and now he has earned himself to be a top 3 pick. I don't think that I'm touching Aaron Judge until the end of the first now, just based off of, I think he's starting to hit the Stanton trend. So where he's just going to teeter off into the injury land. But anyway, Kyle Tucker, I feel, is a safe, 5-tool guy that I love, and that Kyle Tucker is 100% going to be a top 3 guy for me next year.
Yeah, I'm not mad at it. I'm not mad at him as a top 3 pick. We're talking about 2024 again. I have him as my number 5 outfielder, but I'm not mad. It might switch things up around. As you said, I got to see how I feel about Aaron Judge. I have a weak spot for the guy. So Aaron Judge, I still have Aaron Judge ahead of him, but as I dive deeper and we get closer to next season, Tucker might be up there. But I'm still going to have a tough time with Acuna, Betts, and Julio. I think I might take them all over Tucker. It's going to be a close one there as well. But I'm not mad at it. It's not like I'm saying you're wrong or I disagree even. It's just that at this point with Kyle Tucker season, 86 runs, as you mentioned, the 26 homers, 103 RBIs already, 28 steals, 290 batting average. Tucker, I got to give it to Matt. Matt really foresaw this coming, that he was going to take another step forward this year. And kudos to my brother Matt, because that was a fantastic call. He's been hitting 4th and 5th in the lineup instead of 6th or 7th, which is a great move. Shout out to Dusty Baker for finally deciding to make the change for the right with Kyle Tucker. But sky is the limit for this kid, and he's still. I don't know if there's more upside. There might be, but at what is he 20 only going to be 27 in the offseason? The sky's the limit. But before we move on and we talk about, as I mentioned, a couple of starting pitchers that can help you in your championship run, and then just a couple of starting pitchers that have once again improved their stock going into next year, my brother Matt has a quick ad partner for you guys.
Have you ever tried to buy tickets to see your favorite artist or sports team and wound up being stressed out on how much of a hassle it can be? Buying tickets to your favorite events shouldn't be stressful at all. That's why you need to check out the Gametime app. Gametime is a fast and easy way to buy tickets for all sports, music, comedy, theater near you. With killer deals on last-minute tickets and their best price guaranteed, you can stop stressing over the tickets and start getting hyped for all the fun you're about to have. Using Gametime app is super rewarding with flash deals, last-minute tickets, easy to find, and buy tickets for every kind of event in your area. Images of your seats, so you'll be able to see exactly what you're going to be looking like, what it's going to look like from sitting in that seat, even being able to move it left and right so you can get the full perspective of the view. Lowest price guaranteed, even event cancellation, which is absolutely huge. So, I mean, there's no reason that it is the fastest. There's no there is a reason why it's the fastest growing ticket app in all the country. Locked on MLB. Use the code Locked On MLB for $20 off your first purchase when you create an account for new customers. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem the code Locked On MLB for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices, guaranteed. And guys, like I keep saying, I've been using them well before I've been locked on. I'm using them for a good 5, 6, 7 years. I can't keep track, but they've been around for a while and I've loved them. They always get me a sweet deal. They're always cheaper than everybody else, too. So honestly, check there first, compare it to other places, and I guarantee Gametime is the one. All right. So with this all being said, Dom, that was a lot for me. You mind taking this next guy?
Nah, I'm ready to go. That's why I've been doing my little John Means business research over here, and John Means is gonna be back in the rotation. His next start is actually probably the day you're listening to this. So, we just want to give you the heads up on this one because you know what? He's still only 22% owned. So maybe it is a wait and see what John Means. It's the Cardinals. The Cardinals are the most Jekyll and Hyde team in MLB this year. If Goldschmidt and Arenado decide to go out there and do their thing, they could hit anybody. If not, then the rest of that lineup is, a little bit easier to navigate. But as I said, Means is back. His minor league rehab stint didn't go poorly. It was, it was above average, I'd say. A 3.74 ERA across 6 starts, 21 innings, 22 strikeouts, only 8 walks. Not too bad there. And the whip is at 115. Means has a career 108 whip, so, the control is pretty good with him. The fastball is not blowing anybody away. He usually sits around 92, 93. Throws a pretty solid changeup. Curveball is pretty good as well, but, he's a location guy. He knows where to throw the ball. He knows how to get guys out. We contact, all that fun stuff with John Means. And the last time that we saw him, for a full season back in 2021, he looked pretty good. In 2021, John Means, 3.62 ERA, 26 innings, 146 innings, 134 strikeouts, and a 103 whip. So, I believe in John Means, and it's not a lot of pitching out there on the waiver wire. He's pitched for, one of the best teams in baseball, the Orioles, so wins are in play here, and he's been stretched out pretty well as far as, getting you a good amount of innings. So, John Means, definitely worth the pickup here. We just want to give you guys the heads up on, the last few starting pitchers you might be able to snag.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, John Means has the potential to honestly take your, pitching rotation to the next level. We've been telling you for weeks now, you need to stash him. So if he's still available when you're listening to this, add him anyway, because it's Monday to start, which means he's probably going to get a second start this weekend if they haven't gone to a 6-man rotation.
Let me check.
So there's a strong possibility you might be able to snag him up for the weekend. And if he goes off today, which is yesterday for you guys, he could really, really, really do some damage for you going into the weekend. But let's move on here.
Real quick, man. Let me see. Oh, I don't like a second start. It's against Houston. That's a tough one. That's a tough one.
That is a tough one. It's probably
so
a wait
maybe
and
it's
see.
like a wait and see what John Means. But you know what? Hey, if you're in a deep league where there's nothing else, by all means, he does have the upside.
Or if your ERA is completely exploded by that time, then start him because he will get you strikeouts. Yeah. So, it's still going to be a solid start if you just want to go the pitch and ditch method. So, keep an eye on John Means, and then he probably will be there because he's going up against Houston. But anyway, let's move on. Let's talk about Ryan Pepiot.
Wow, Matt, you got that one. I'm sorry. Yeah. I'm just impressed. I'm impressed, but by all means, go ahead.
I know. I could have went Pepito.
Yeah, cool I didn't know it was coming. I was excited to hear it.
Pepito. I actually like that nickname, but
we can call him that. I like it as a nickname.
It's okay. It's not. It doesn't really have that flair, like the pterodactyl.
Bro,
so
best nickname in baseball. Love it.
Yeah, trademark, man. You can't get anything. All right, pterodactyl. All right. Anyway, Mr. Pepiot here. It has had a nice, bounce back year, I want to say, right? So last year he had he didn't have an atrocious
He
year,
was
but
pretty good last year.
his overall numbers look good, but his fielding independent pitching was a
Yeah,
5.42.
yeah.
He gave up a lot of things that he really shouldn't be, and he got lucky on a lot of plays. This year, he's really performing. He's well overperforming his ERA, but not like in a seriously bad way, right? So he has a 0.86 ERA through 21 innings pitched, but he has a 2.83 fielding independent pitching, which is more of like if they had an average style defense, then that would be his ERA, right? So he's still pitching phenomenally. So great job, Pepiot. I really like what he's doing out there. He's right like a little bit under a K per nine, but he has the K per nine possibilities because last year he had 36 innings pitched with 42 strikeouts. So if anything, that might return to the mean. And I like the possibility. I like the upside, and I like the matchup too. Normally, I don't say I like going up against Juan Soto, but the Padres as a whole, outside of him and Bogarts, honestly really haven't been performing. So it's not a bad matchup. Once you get past them, like Machado, if he decides to show up that day. But other than that, there's really not much left to go on in that lineup. So Pepiot, I am considering rolling out on Wednesday actually. So depending on how your first 2 days go, if you need to catch up, if you're really down in strikes, you might want to roll out Pepiot.
Yeah, Matt, great take on Pepiot. I want to vibe off of what you said. His next two matchups are even better because after the San Diego start, he gets Detroit, and then after the Detroit start, he gets San Francisco. And there's no reason that he shouldn't be in the rotation anymore. Julio Urias is officially, gone. We might not see him for a while. So, Pepiot should be in there and keep the spot if the Dodgers know what they're doing, which I fully, I have every, reason to believe in Pepiot. But Matt, great take on there. So I'm just going to keep things pushing here. Let's move on to our next guy who actually had a monster start in his last one, and it's Ranger Suarez. Matt and I were kind of, talking about him the last few weeks, telling you, hey, if he's out there, snag him, throw him out there and see what happens. And, we did say that Marlins team has been good, but you know what? Ranger Suarez was even better. He threw 6.1 innings, gave up 3 runs, had 10 strikeouts and an 0.79 whip. Ranger Suarez doing what he did at the, end of the season a couple of years back, and he's just, leading you to fantasy glory. He's only 35% owned, so I would definitely give him the snag. His next start against St. Louis, like I said, hit or miss team to go up against, but after that, it looks like he either gets Atlanta or the Mets. Let's hope it's the Mets. Let's hope it's the Mets. But things shall be seen. I'm at least going to roll him out for that St. Louis start because like I said, you get past Nolan and Goldie, and you should be good. And Suarez has been serviceable. His last 5 starts, really only one unacceptable one in there. So I think you take Ranger Suarez and you throw him out there.
Yeah, no, I like Suarez. I actually picked him up in a lot of leagues just based off of the fact of his matchups. I'm not like the happiest about it, but at the same time, I'm kind of like Ranger Suarez has just shown up, and honestly, his career numbers prove that he's a better pitcher than how he's been pitching because he is a 3.60 ERA career. Honestly, he's been Mr. Suppressor. So Ranger Suarez is somebody I'm willing to roll out. Sorry for the screaming child in the background. It is what it is. This is what happens around bedtime. But anyway, let's move on. Let's talk about our last guy here. Let's talk about Aaron Savale. Somebody we've told you a million times before he came back from the IL.
Yeah, exactly. You took. I was going to say the same thing. I'm sorry.
Yeah, like you should have added him already. So like if you don't have him, it's unfortunate. He's 78% owned. You're probably not going to find him out there now in most competitive leagues. If he is, get him. Now the thing is about this week, he's pitching Wednesday. He is going up against Baltimore at Baltimore, and Baltimore is just Baltimore at this point. They're good. They're back. And I'm kind of still okay with rolling him out there. It's funny. The games he has really high ERAs is the games he has like 9 or 10 strikeouts. So like, I'm kind of okay with it to like, be like, okay, I'm going to sacrifice a little bit of ERA to go get the strikeout number. Because at any given time, you can have what happened to me today. And Iglesias gives up a home run and, botches up your ERA to start the week already. So you may be in a position where it is what it is. And, screw it, get the Ks. But if you're in a position where you can kind of pass on it, I might be hesitant to roll him out there. But Aaron Savale is just somebody I'm probably going to roll out. And for next year, I'm excited to see where I'm going to rank him. He might be a top 40 pitcher.
Yeah. I'm in lock and step with you there. And I think Tampa Bay was a perfect team for him to go to unlock some of that pitching potential. The strikeouts have seen a little bit of an uptick since he's gone over there. Yeah, that big 12 strikeout game against Boston. He's still young too. He's 28 years old. Well, not young, but still young enough where you could see him get a nice 3-4 year run where he's really, really good. And I'll give you guys, if you hung around this long, you deserve it. Let's see where I have Savali going in next year. I actually probably have him too high. He probably has to move down, but I have him at 29 right now, which is probably too high. I'm still mixing and moving names around, and I already see a couple of guys below him that I should probably have Senga and Musgrove right below him. I'll probably push those guys over Savale. But with rankings, it's always not, I wouldn't exactly take him there, but that's where I think he fits in. That's where if the push comes to shove and I got guys like Matt drafted around me, I might move Savale up one or two. But Matt, great take on the kid. Real quick, I mention this every time I talk about him, so I have to mention it again today. He had such a great run last year. His last 7 starts last year were absolutely monstrous. So coming into this year, Matt and I were both big on him. We've loved him for years and years. But Aaron Savale, definitely a pitcher to watch out for in 2024. But guys, that is all for today. If you haven't already, please be sure to like, subscribe, comment, rate, and review. Shout out to our everydayers and new listeners for making Locked On Fantasy Baseball your first listen each and every day. And make sure you lock on for a new episode tomorrow. Not 100% sure what we're going to be talking about yet, but we know it's a good one as always. So guys, until tomorrow, see you.
Peace.